Madam President, remember, this is a $496 million bill. It's a bill that was that number was basically the position of our Senate Capital Investment Committee coming off on the initial bill. We've sort of worked towards that number and held to that number as we've gone forward. It's a number that involves $158 million for higher education, $96 million for asset preservation, $50 million, Madam President, for a new program within the bonding bill that we're going to maybe test out here, so to speak, in terms of how it works. It's a program, it's a grant program with Indeed. It is an economic development related kind of program, and local areas across the state of Minnesota would submit applications to this particular project or this particular grant program and be judged based on some fairly rigid criteria that revolve around the whole matter of cost benefit and increased economic vitality in Minnesota. We've got $44 million for the state capital. That wasn't as much as we had earlier, but in agreement, per my understanding, with my House counterpart and talking with the Department of Administration, this was an agreed-to number for this year. We've got $40 million for roads and bridges. We've got $33 million for what we call the Rural Finance Authority. These are user-financed bonds to help agriculture across Minnesota. We've got $31 million for military and veterans affairs kind of needs, $30 million for flood hazard mitigation, $15 for wastewater infrastructure, an additional $8.5 million, which magnifies itself by 8 with federal money, so we get about $68 million worth of value out of that. So as we look at this bill, it certainly covers a lot of areas. It is basically structured, though, around asset preservation, University of Minnesota higher education, MNSCU, and other things that relate to trying to keep the assets of Minnesota in good shape. And it's a difficult task. I will tell you, members, as you've traveled the state perhaps with us, you know full well we've got a lot of assets out there, tremendous number of buildings, tremendous number of things to take care of. Sometimes you wonder if we've got too much relative to our ability to service them from the standpoint of the financial ability of any given bonding bill.
While it is generous to MNSCU, and I support that, it really does give short shrift to the University of Minnesota. I do think that we have room for a slightly larger sized bonding bill. We have enough capacity because the governor's in his budget set aside enough money for the bonding bill, and we have excess money from a tax bill that did not become law. And this is a very important project that needs to be done. It's not a glamorous project like the nanotechnology bill, the physics bill, but the combined heat and power plant bill on the University of Minnesota is very, very important to the future of the university. It'll save them quite a bit in heating costs. It will be more cost effective, more efficient, and it needs to be done. And you know, this is we've talked a lot about repairing the roads and repairing the roofs and doing the important things that have to be done, and having a good heating cooling system. Our HVAC systems, just like in the Capitol itself, need to be put in good order.
But I wanted to share my deep frustration with the failure of this body to fund Southwest LRT. I'm the chief author of the funding proposal this year, $25 million that would have leveraged hundreds of millions of federal dollars for this next stage in the development of our metropolitan transit system. And while there are those who have, it appears, a moral objection to transit funding, especially rail funding, the fact is you go to any major metropolitan business community and you will find a well-developed rail system. Minneapolis and St. Paul, our metropolitan area, is a backwater when it comes to mass transit. And it's not just the 210,000 jobs in this corridor that would be affected. They could take the residents in this corridor could take a single-seat ride from Eden Prairie to the University of Minnesota and to St. Paul if this were passed. There'll be 60,000 additional jobs created as a result of the Southwest LRT when it becomes a reality. But the fact is, failing to put $25 million in the Southwest this year will add $40 million to the cost of the project due to the inflation and other costs relating to delay.